I the a-hole for banning my 5-year-old sister from the wedding unless she gets therapy before the wedding? Hello, lovely humans. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie Wolfer. I'm your online wedding planner. Today we're wearing spicy red lip, which means we're having spicy content. We're going to read through this AITA, which if you don't know means Am I the A-hole, post over on Reddit. And right now it's not looking great. Okay, so here's how these normally go. I will read the post and I will give my feedback as a professional in the field, and then we'll go to the comments. But before we get started, jump on down there, hit subscribe, especially if you love AITAs as much as I do. And while I do these quite often, I also hope you plan your wedding because you deserve to have a stress-free wedding day. So subscribe right on down there. And without further ado, let's just jump right on into this post. Okay, I just want to start off by saying that I, 24-year-old female, love my baby sister more than anything in the world. I drive a 3-row car because it was able to fit her and my other siblings, 9-year-old female, 7-year-old male, and some of their friends. Wow, that is absolutely commitment. My fiance and I watch the kids after school every day, and they spend the night with us 2 to 4 days a week. Wow, you have like a very, very sweet relationship with them. My fiance is great with kids, and they adore him. My fiance proposed 6 months ago, and when we told the kids, the older two were excited, but Evie, the 5-year-old, was furious. Oh, baby! She started crying and hitting me. Oh, no. Because she wanted to marry him, and if I marry him, she can't. She refused to speak to me for almost a week, and now she's mostly okay, but she gets mad at me and starts crying and hitting me anytime she sees me kiss him. Wow. Oh, I see where you're coming from now, sis. She was supposed to be our flower girl, but I really don't think she's able to sit through the wedding without some kind of outburst. So I called our dad, told him about all of this, and said that she won't be allowed to attend the wedding unless she starts seeing a therapist before the wedding. The wedding is in September, so he has a couple of months to get her in therapy. He's saying she doesn't need therapy. She's just a 5-year-old with a crush on my fiance. I'm overreacting, and she won't forgive me if I exclude her from the wedding. Am I the a-hole for banning her unless she gets therapy? Edit. Okay, we've tried everything. We've talked about her behavior, her feelings, that what she's doing isn't acceptable, that my fiance will still be in her life, but nothing helped. She goes to timeout right when she starts hitting and kicking. She loses toys. She's left outings early, and my fiance refuses to play with her after because he doesn't play with anyone that hits. Okay? This is not normal 5-year-old behavior. There's nothing else we can do. We will not hit her. And to everyone saying her parents need to parent, how do you suggest I do that? They'll neglect the kids whether they have them full or part-time. Ooh, okay, so we're not just big sister, we're like stand-in mommy here. If that last little 2-sentence nugget gives us anything to go off of. I'm glad I read that edit because I had some thoughts and opinions before that was shared because I am a mom of 4. I'm a mom of 4, and while I love and admire gentle parenting, I tend to be a little bit firmer than that. I'm not saying I yell all the time, but I definitely raise my voice at moments. And this is the kind of behavior that I would just completely, like, hard boundary. We don't hit. You don't do that. You are not allowed to do that. And some parents are cool with it, and they're like, yeah, they're just expressing themselves. I think that causing physical harm to another person, regardless of your age, causing physical harm with intention is never really a good thing. And I don't think it should be fostered in any way. That's just my opinion, and that's how we've raised our kids. If they have frustrations, we literally bought my son a punching bag, okay? And we're not trying to encourage any sort of physicalness in any capacity. It's actually kind of turned into a comedy tool for him. But we have a hard boundary when it comes to physical contact, aggressive physical contact. That's an absolute no in our household. And it sounds like this gal is like trying really hard to implement that as well. But it also sounds like she's struggling because she's kind of in a parental role, but she's not in a parental role. So she really is in a place where she's like, I don't know what to do. And to be totally honest, the only thing that I can think of if your dad is saying, hey, no, she's fine, she's 5, but we're seeing repeated behavior of this. It's not just like one time the child had an outburst and then, she got over it. This is continued, and we're continuing to see some really bad behavior off of this. And I wonder if a lot of this is from what you're saying, if the kids are being neglected by the parents, emotionally, physically, time-wise, then it feels as though for this 5-year-old, her picture perfect life is kind of crumbling. I remember when I was this age, I thought I was going to marry my dad. I was like, I'm not going to marry anybody else. I'm going to marry you, Daddy, because you're perfect and I love you. And I still know that, I love my dad. He's incredible. And I'm so blessed to have him as a father. But I'm really glad I changed my mind. As a 5-year-old, wanting to marry a male figure in your life is not completely unheard of. However, the follow-up behavior is afterwards. Here's what I would suggest. And the first part has nothing to do with wedding planning, and the second part does. In my opinion, if this is a boundary that you have, that your sister needs to go to therapy in order to be able to kind of process through this, to go to your wedding, and your dad is saying, no, we're not going to do that, Then if it was me and I had such a close relationship with this sibling and they were important to me, I would say, okay, I'll spring for a therapy appointment. I'll do it. I'll take them. I'll go sit in the appointment if I need to. I'll go drop her off. You are a very active presence in her life. And if this is something that you would like to see done, my guess is you financially invested into these children as well. Then this could be another step in that direction of continuing to invest in them. However, I know a lot of people are going to be like, they're not your kids. You don't have to spend money on them. I get it. But you did already buy a 3-row car just specifically so you could take extra care of these kids. They spend the night with you all the time. It almost is like a split custody situation. So if you're really insistent on it, maybe consider doing that. It is the parent's responsibility to do it. I am not trying to paint it in another way. But if this is your hard boundary, she can't come unless she goes to therapy, I think your heart would break not having her there. And so I think it might be worth the investment on your part to go talk with someone or go talk to someone with her. Because the second part of my advice coming from a wedding planner is obviously the stressors around a wedding day usually are with adults. They're not usually with children. So this is obviously a little bit unique. But missing someone's wedding day can feel very catastrophic and can impact relationships pretty heavily. Now, she's 5. She'll probably bounce back just fine. It's not like she's going to need to be in therapy from missing your wedding, right? Or she might. I don't know. But I get where you're coming from. You're like, I don't want to bring this kid who I love so very much to my wedding where she just might end up like smacking me in my wedding dress and I have like a 5-year-old handprint on my cheek for the rest of the day. Like I can't do that. I can't hold space for that. I'm not doing that. She really needs to get this figured out. And that's so sad because she's so little. She's so little to be experiencing emotions this big and this extended and for this long, all 3 of those factors combined. But I think not having her present for your wedding would not only impact her a little bit, she's 5 again, she'll get over it, but it will impact you. It will impact your other siblings who might be affected by that emotionally, and it'll impact your parents. I don't know if you guys have all the same parents, but obviously you share the same father. It will impact that relationship as well. So unfortunately, as although so many people are like, it's my wedding, it's my day, I'm going to do whatever I want, you can't tell me what to do. There are ramifications because it does feel so momentous and everyone puts so much pressure on this one event. So I don't think you are the a-hole. Let me just say that really clearly. That's my vote. You're not the a-hole. You're doing literally your darndest to make sure that you are providing these kids with love and stability in these formative years. And I think you're putting up a really good boundary, and I support you in that. I think that that's a fantastic idea. I think that we could probably come up with a couple different solutions to make sure that you still get the outcome that you want and then your sister can attend. Now, that all being said, let's go ahead and jump right onto these comments, all right? I had a little boy who spent time with my family and had a big crush on me. He was very sad and angry when I got married. I told him that I'm much older than he is, and by the time he's old enough to get married, I'll be a wrinkly old woman. I said when it's time for him to marry, I will help him find someone his own age who is a lot like me. He was happy with that answer. Oh, that's sweet. LOL, I had one of those too. A 5-year-old who lived next door. He'd low-key insult my husband when we first started dating and acted like a jealous ex. My husband had a Harley at the time, and one day he took him for a ride on it. They were cool after that. I'm telling you, kids can be pretty simple creatures. Where are the parents? Why is no one telling her she can't behave this way? The reply says, you mean the parents who pawn their kids off on OP all the time? Now, I will say we don't know if the parents are pawning the kids off or OP is just volunteering. We live like 10 minutes away from my parents, and they love to steal my children. It brings them joy, so much joy. I love to steal my sister's kids and just like have them come over. They delight me to no end. And so this is just kind of how our family culture is. So we don't know necessarily if that's the case here, although that last little line of the parents neglecting them, we're not sure, but I'm not going to assume that the parents are pawning them off. This child needs way more than therapy, so she won't act out at a wedding. All these children need parents who don't neglect them, and that can't be improvised through you no matter how much you love them and want to help. Do you have authority to authorize medical treatment in an emergency when they're with you? If they get hurt on your property or a drunk driver runs into your van, who will their mother blame? If the parents are their legal guardians and have no interest in them and they're essentially living with you, is anyone taking care of their medical needs? Are they getting to school when they're with their parents? Do they have any friends or go to any appropriate activities for children their age? These are a lot of questions that I don't really think... I get where you're coming from asking them. I just don't... Yes, we're unpacking way further than I think OP is necessarily looking for. Are they enrolled in any activities their parents/legal guardians would need to give permission first? You can't rebuild a normal childhood, and none of this is normal. I think she's trying to give them as much stability as she can. You can try to get them all help going forward, and in many U.S. states, their teachers/physicians, if they're taken there by their parents, would be mandatory reporters if they knew this information about their legal guardians, leaving them essentially living with you when you're not their legal guardians and apparently couldn't even make medical decisions for them in an emergency. Yeah, we're really unpacking this. Okay. In my opinion, you are describing neglect, and those kids need protection in every way. When this parental neglect by both parents is happening at 5, what do you think she'll be at risk for as a preteen and teen with a mother without interest in her as a toddler? Okay, what the heck? And what do you think her siblings are going through instead of acting out at others? Note that you have no authority to get her the emotional support/therapy and have to rely on her legal guardian. Those children need their own legal advocates with only their interests in mind. Your father couldn't be clearer that his only interest is pacifying his wife and therefore at least equally neglectful. Where do we see the part about the wife? I don't see anything about the wife, unless I'm missing another comment somewhere. Wow, this person wrote a lot. Okay. These kids all need objective outside evaluation by people qualified to help them. This is not a wedding problem, and if it were, a band-aid on that situation won't help any of these kids. Edited to add on the question as you frame it, not the a-hole, but get each one of these kids outside qualified help. Honestly, this comment is it, and I will elaborate why. This kid seems to be showing signs of attachment disorder. I've seen it in, I don't know what that abbreviation means, a kid that was similar to this as one example, but upon knowing the kid, there were many other red flags in other situations. Attachment disorders can be scary. This kid needs to be evaluated by a child psychologist before she hurts herself, someone else, or sets your house on fire out of disapproval. Oh, well, I didn't go there with any of this. I just saw it as a little girl that has a crush that's pretty angry about it. But what do I know? Oh, this is good. What do I know? It is very important that your fiance tells her that he would not marry her, even if he did not marry you. He could also explain to her that he's going to be her brother, that he's looking forward to having her as a sister. He has to do that, not you. So we don't know if the fiance has already had this conversation with the little girl, but I think that this is like a really clear, like, hey, I love you and I get to be your brother now. But even if I wasn't marrying your sister, I wouldn't marry you because, you know what, I'm too old. And I think that that comment that we saw a little bit earlier up, finding a way to connect with her on this. I don't know if taking her out one-on-one to like grab ice cream would exacerbate things or could come across as really intentional. I didn't read this as intensely as some of these comments have though. So I don't know. It's just because I'm not well acquainted with the condition that some of the commenters are describing. But I just read it as a lot more innocent than this with a lot of feelings attached to it. Did everyone in here eat crazy pills? A child becoming violent over a crush on an adult is not normal, nor should it just be ignored. If dad won't discipline her himself and teach her to keep her hands to herself, even in the face of big emotions, the 5-year-old does not need to be in attendance, not the a-hole. Dad apparently doesn't parent since the kids spend half their time with Big Sis, 2 to 4 overnights a week plus after school. So this person said it's because OP stealth edited in that the kid was still being violent. Oh, so a lot of his comments didn't see that. It used to say that she hasn't done anything after going quiet for a week. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up on this one because OP replied to this, which I think will really round this out nicely. OP, I think she's hitting because she has so little control over her general situation. Mom and dad aren't really involved, which is hard on her. She gets shuttled between you and her uninvolved parents, and she apparently sees your fiance as a father figure and sees you kissing him as a sign she's going to lose him too. She can have a crush on him. They're not mutually exclusive things to a 5-year-old. She does need therapy, but clearly her bad dad isn't going to take her. If you can, see if he'd pay for sessions if you take her. You're already doing great at giving timeouts and not playing with her after she hits. You might try making a chart for her with pictures, since she probably can't read well yet, of options she can do when she's angry instead of hitting. Also, I don't think this is in any childcare books, but when my kids were angry, they would go into a specific room in our house, it was the half bath, shut the door, and get them mad out by stomping their feet, crying, yelling, growling, making faces, etc. We called it the growlery, and that was what Dickens called such a room in Bleak House. Okay. When they were ready to use their words, they came out, but she does need therapy. I want a growlery just for myself. It's like a room version of screaming into a pillow. Okay, so here's what OP says. I told him I'll take her, but he has to be the one to get her the therapist. Okay, if you find the therapist, I will go. I don't really see how that's going to be beneficial when he's like, she doesn't need it. So why is he going to go looking for it? I don't think that we're going to probably find any resolution here. So here's the moral of the story when it comes to wedding planning, right? Because a lot of this went kind of off the rails towards like, what condition does this child have? How does this need to be treated? Let's talk about boundaries on your wedding day. Let's talk about who you need to invite and who you don't need to invite. Because I made a pretty bold statement earlier talking about how not inviting someone to your wedding or uninviting someone to your wedding can have some pretty big ramifications. And honestly, as unfortunate as it sounds, that is true. If you decide to not include someone, especially a core family member, there will be fallout. There will be ramifications. There will be a ripple effect that's going to probably cause a stir within your immediate family and maybe even extending out towards your extended family. So that is something you'll kind of need to emotionally be prepared for. Now, please don't hear me say you cannot do that, right? Boundaries are boundaries. I love boundaries. They're so great. They let people know what you're down for and what you're not down for, right? You're like, I am not down to get slapped on my wedding day. That's not happening. That's a boundary that I have. And other people may or may not respect those boundaries, but you can still maintain those and keep those in place regardless of what the outside opinions are going to be. But what I am saying is you will still get outside opinions. So as long as you can kind of emotionally prepare yourself for what that fallout could look like, the people you might need to contact, the conversation that you might need to have with your other two siblings of, hey, Evie's kind of losing it. Evie's having a really hard time and we're doing everything in our power to make sure that she adjusts to this new status of our relationship and isn't so angry about it. But if she keeps behaving like this, we don't know if it's going to be safe or smart to have her at our wedding. That would probably be the relationship that I would focus on the most, is those other two kids, not the most, but like control the fallout of as effectively as possible. And then you'll run into the issue of, will your parents or their parents not come because of this decision that you've made? So I'm all for boundaries. I'm all for putting them up. I'm all for sticking to them. But we do have those potential ramifications of what it will look like if you uninvite someone or don't invite a key family member to your wedding. So as long as you feel prepared for that, as long as you spend some time wrestling with that, and you're also ready for some people to kind of test and to push that boundary, then yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I don't think the OP here is the a-hole. I think she's trying really hard. I think she's doing really, really good job in these kids' lives of being present, of being consistent, of being intentional. Everything that they're saying as far as punishment goes, for taking the toys away, for fiance not playing with the child afterwards, all of those sound like really healthy boundaries. It sounds, OP, like you are already really good at some of these boundaries. It's just going to be enforcing this one around your wedding day that's going to hurt pretty bad. So I hope some of these ideas that you've received in the comments can kind of help you, one, to feel less alone, and two, equip you with decision-making powers moving forward to see what you can do. So that's what we have for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you haven't done so already, jump on down there, hit that like button, and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. And until next week, bye guys.